Good evening and welcome to Your Call. This week I'm joined by a man who is a politician and a gentleman, a man who's been former Finance Minister, External Affairs Minister and Defence Minister, BJP leader Jaswant Singh. Well, thank you for coming, sir. And I mentioned Defence Minister, but of course that stint, though relatively short compared to your other two stints, is something which I think you felt particularly close to because of your background in the armed forces. When you see what's happening today, what is your reaction at the end of a week which has been a turbulent one?
Well, I'm filled with great concern, and if I use the word despair, it's not an exaggeration, because as I think in an earlier talk with you, I've used the phrase, this is the sword arm of the country. You can't blunt it. And what the last week, it's not just last week, the previous so many years, what it has demonstrated, an absence of understanding about what the armed forces really are, an absence of grasping the sensibilities of the armed forces, a near total disjunct between the Ministry of Defence and the armed forces. An absence of leadership from the political community, by which I really mean both the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister. After all, the Prime Minister is the chairman of the Cabinet Committee on Security.
But given that, sir, and given the shocking details that seem to be in that letter which became public, this isn't something that happened overnight. And of course, people within the UPA will say, look at what happened in Kargil. And we've seen recommendations by the expert committee on Kargil, recommendations of the group of ministers. Then nothing happened with successive governments, NDA or UPA. So in that sense, the political class, can you single out just the Prime Minister and current Defence Minister? It's a larger issue.
I don't wish to do that, but because you referred to the Kargil, I had quite a good deal to do with Kargil.
Yes.
I don't want to speak in first person singular, but the reality is, and this is a fact, the Kargil attack on India is the only battle, should I put it, that India has fought since independence, in which firstly not a single inch of land was conceded. Secondly, after the battle, war, whatever you wish to call it, the government of the day ordered a full review of what had happened. And it's a brilliant report that late Subramaniam, because the review comprised Subramaniam and my friend George Verghese and others. Following upon that report, a committee or group of ministers was instituted under Mr. Advani. It's a wonderful report, that report of the group of ministers. It addresses all issues. And there were recommendations about the Defence Ministry. But you're right.
Nothing happened with those recommendations?
Not nothing.
Very little.
Yeah, that is a qualitative term, little or very little, but not satisfactory. The approach was not. The approach is, because once issues or matters get trapped in the labyrinths of bureaucracy, which is what I meant by a huge gap between the ministry, that's the civil part of it, and the armed forces. They inhabit the same physical territory in South Block. And we had, one of the recommendations was, and it was on paper implemented, that there should be total integration between the Ministry of Defence and the three services of the armed forces. There were various other recommendations. We were told they are now integrated, but they are not integrated. There is a separation, us and them. This must not be.
And in fact, I'd like to go across also to someone else who has, when we brought up Kargil, somebody whose son actually died in Kargil. His parents, Colonel Thapar, and his wife, their young son, Lieutenant Vijayan Thapar, had died in Kargil. And let's just go across to them to see what they have to ask. And we'll come back to that issue which had been raised also about the hostilities.
During the Kargil war, immediately after that, I got a famous letter from you, which I've kept. And it was to Raj Rif for their collective courage and collective effort in turning the tables on the enemy in the Battle of Tololing.
That's right.
And also 3 pimples in Nol. Now, the emphasis of that document was on collective effort, on collective courage, and collectively doing good things. Unfortunately, I find that kind of spirit existing no longer in the higher echelons of the army. By army, I mean the Ministry of Defence and the army. And as such, things are not really collectively being pushed forward.
Thank you very much, Colonel. I don't want to refer to the great loss that you and your family have suffered. My writing a letter to you was the least I could do to share that loss with you. I know amongst the battles that we had to then fight, the battle for Tololing was a particularly trying battle. If I can share with you something, because in that period, a very eminent American who had earlier been Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, had come to call on me, and Henry had asked me, Jaswant, will you be able to win these heights back? I found that a slightly patronizing question, questioning the ability of the Indian infantry. And I had told him, Henry, don't worry, we will get those heights back, and we will get them back, and we will oust those that have ingressed on our territory. Some months after the event, I permitted a group of officers from the US Army to go to those heights and see what our infantry had achieved. They wouldn't believe that this is what our infantry had achieved. I wanted to share that with you.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.